In November 2011, parents and teachers met in an El Marino parents' home to form the Advocates for Cleaner Air El Marino. We saw the air pollution issue at El Marino as being both a health and safety issue for the children as well as the teachers and staff. We presented our mission to Principal Pamelia, who supported our work and met with us consistently to stay informed and to give us input on our process. Our group met with the school district to present our mission and was welcome to share our information and concern. The school district and school board members attended our public meetings to show their interest in working with us to research our situation and find solutions. We presented our mission to our PTA, who endorsed us as a PTA-affiliated committee. A website was developed to keep our community informed. It showed our value of transparency and open participation in our process. It also informed our community of our immediate actions and our research. We collected endorsement signatures from El Marino employees, parents, the Culver City Council, the Culver City City Council, community members, and outside organizations. We organized and attended public events to share our progress. USC donated air measurement equipment to do tests of air quality at different distances from the freeway that concluded the closer you are to the freeway, even with the sound wall, the more pollution there is.
During the day, while the children are at school, we have a breeze that blows to us from the ocean onto the freeway and then onto our school. Having parents be involved in measuring themselves and having teachers look at what we were doing, be involved, and they have been involved in our decision making, and having children gather around the instrument to see what we were doing was, I believe, a very good part of involving our community into this project.
The research was gathered, and now it was time to look at solutions to improve the air quality. We reached out to other schools in similar situations who gave us insight into the process for improving air quality. We formed partnerships with USC, CSUN, AQMD, IQ Air, SoCal Air Dynamics, and the EPA, who are all great outside supporters, along with our school district, to assist us with our vision. These collaborators, coupled with the partnership of our school district, has made all this possible.
Hello, my name is John Ellis. My company is SoCal Air Dynamics. Our specialty is creating clean, healthy environments for people with respiratory compromises and children in schools. Our unit here is temporary. It's going to sit on the deck here, and we're going to come up and bring some ducting into the windows. We're going to break out a pane of glass and get the air going, supply air in, return air out. This Nanomax filter, we hope, and these are conservative numbers, to get, let's say, between 85 and 95% filtration. And that's far superior than an over-the-counter type filter will do.
We can now measure the effectiveness of different solutions to address the issue of the particulates from the 405 freeway entering into our classrooms.
We are in the process of monitoring air quality inside and outside the classroom here at El Marino in Culver City. We have partnered with AQMD, who has set up monitoring equipment for us since yesterday, and we will be sampling the air inside and outside the classroom for about 43 hours continuously.
Hi, this is Steve Boddicker. I'm an instrument specialist with the South Coast Air Quality Management District. We're sitting out here by the 405. And we have two boxes. One of our boxes is an exterior box for measuring the ambient conditions of our ultrafine particles. We also have another box inside the room measuring the ultrafine particle count. Ultrafine particle is a combustion byproduct. It's a molecular level combustion byproduct from vehicles, any type of combustion engine.
The Clean Air El Marino team has been very actively involved in logging activity inside and outside the classroom, activity that is relevant potentially to air quality, such as movement inside the classroom, doors opening or closing. And outside we're looking at weather conditions, wind patterns, traffic, and any other relevant factors. Many parents have been involved in the logging of the activities, and we've been doing this for many hours today. This monitoring will determine two things. One, the efficiency of the filtration system, the HVAC filtration system that has been installed in our kindergarten classroom that is the closest to the freeway.
Hi, advocates for cleaning air.
She said advocates.
Advocates?
Yeah.
Whoa, she just coined it.
Yeah, advocates for clean air.
We appreciate everyone's participation in this process. We thank you for attending the events we have held in the past, and we invite you to attend the future ones, as we will be sharing those results with everyone.
Okay, now you can clap if you like.
Thank you, Stefan, very much. Well, you have the whole introduction. No need for more. I'm Rania Sapti-Daly, parent of El Marino, also faculty member, California State University at Northridge and Trident University, PhD. Just saying. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is actually go right to the air monitoring data that we have collected. Next slide, please, Tracy. Next. One before. Thank you. So what we did was we collected some outdoor air pollution measurements with air monitoring equipment support from USC, as you learned from the video. We measured ultrafine particles. These are particles that are less than 1 micrometer. They're primarily produced from combustion of fuels or fossil fuels in motor vehicle exhaust in our case. They're highly toxic, and I'd be happy to get more into that and why that may be. We used a feed-track instrument. It measures particles that are very small, including those ultrafine particles. Next, please. So one of the earlier measurements that we took was use this feed-track instrument and take about 10-minute samples as we moved from the other side of the freeway, which is all the way to the left, to right at the freeway, which is that vertical line with all the numbers that you see there. And then we progressively started walking into the school with the letter A being, let's see, next to the freeway, on the sidewalk, right next to the freeway, which is on the other side of El Marino, and then we moved on to point B, which was inside the school, right outside the kindergarten, which currently has that filtration system, and so on, moving all the way backwards. The reason we did that is that there was evidence in the literature that distance had a lot to do with exposure to near roadway pollutants. And what we did there was create this, came up with a curve that looks exactly like what the literature would have predicted. So that confirmed for us that we didn't have any magical situation going on that protected us from near roadway pollution coming from the freeway. We're not any different than anywhere else where these studies were made, and that was the purpose of that step. And so distance mattered. And on the other side of the freeway is all the way to the left, and that's very low. I want to point out that the wind during the day blows the pollutants from the freeway onto our school. And so it's very logical and reasonable that it be very low on the other side of the freeway, and on our side it's very high. And it progressively gets lower as we move further back away from the freeway. All of our school is under that curve, well, of course. Anyway, next slide. So the next thing we wanted to do was we had read some literature, learned from AQMD, USC scientists, and so on, that indoor levels could be different than outdoor levels, and that other experiences in other schools have shown that really shutting the doors is what's going to really matter. The only thing that's going to really make a difference is shutting the doors and keeping that polluted air outside. And so the setup that we naturally had here at El Marino was the library and the computer lab. Both are at equal distance from the freeway. They're situated adjacent to one another. The library, which is that curve on the top, has all the doors open. The computer lab is one room that we have that is air conditioned because we have all that equipment in there and we want to keep it cool and whatever all the reasons are. So we measured simultaneously for 15 or actually 20 minutes or so both rooms, and we saw that the levels in the room where it was closed, the levels were down and it was high in the library where all the doors were open. So that again corroborated with all the information we had learned about what's been going on with other schools and exactly what the scientists would have predicted. So what we then did next is that we decided that This has been a partnership, by the way, that I want to highlight here. Yes, our principal, Tracy, has been involved all the way through giving us advice, but also our superintendent and our assistant superintendent have been with us all the way through. And I want to say that they've been informed every step of the way and with us in deciding what we should do next. So the next thing that we decided all to do was to bring in some mitigation that has proved to help schools in similar situations. So we installed that mitigation in kindergarten, room 20, which happens to be the room closest to the freeway, but also it meant it was strategically doable because it meant that whatever equipment we brought in was going to be out of kids' way because we had to place it on the ground, and it was just completely out of the way, which made it very possible. And we did that with our district. We had the donated instrument, the HVAC system / filtration was donated by Ferguson Enterprises. It was installed by SoCal Dynamics, and you saw the consultant or contractor talking up there. And our district supported it with funding for installation. So, but please one step back. We evaluated the effectiveness of that filtration HVAC system, and I want to highlight here that we did that in complete partnership with the South Coast AQMD. The project manager that worked with us hand in hand all the time was Andrea Polidori, Dr. Andrea Polidori, Quality Assurance Manager with SC AQMD. He couldn't be here today to be part of this presentation, and he wishes he could have been, but he couldn't. And so I'm presenting data that we have worked on together, and that we have been involved, that they have completely been involved in collecting and guiding us through what it means and how are we going to present it best to all of you for it to make sense. And so this is what I'm presenting next is something that we've is coming to you with a lot of guidance from the Air Quality Management District. So, all right, we started sampling on an afternoon of 1:15, and we stopped sampling on the morning of 1:17. So we capture all of the school day of 1:16, and it was a Thursday. So all of Thursday from midnight to the end of the school day was captured in this sampling. And we measured ultrafine particles and black carbon concentrations, both inside and outside of that room, kindergarten room 20. And what we learned was that the ultrafine particle removal was as high as 94%. That's the average removal throughout the day, throughout the whole entire sampling period of something like 32 hours, actually more than that. I think it must have been 50 hours or so. So the average removal efficiency of the system was about 94% on average, with a minimum of 47 and a max of 99%. I know exactly where that minimum comes from, and I'd be happy to share more of that with you, but propping doors open can really lead to efficiency of the system going down, and it takes it a little bit of time to catch up, again, I'm happy to share all of that with you when you ask the questions. So black carbon removal was 92% on average as well, so very high, and with a maximum of 100%. Now, we talked a lot about ultrafine particles, but let me say that black carbon is a primary component actually of diesel particulate matter, some of the worst pollutant that anyone could breathe, really. Black carbon is a very strong indicator of traffic pollution because it is a combustion byproduct, and it simply just comes from that. And it presents itself in ultrafine particles. So when you see numbers of black carbon and ultrafine particles go together, whether when what the data shows or what the removal shows, it just tells you that, number one, it validates the data a little bit more. And number two, it really shows that our system works for a whole bunch of things, not just ultrafine particles, but some of the worst culprits like black carbon as well. And so it speaks to the quality of the system and what it can remove. It's not just any old filter, it's beyond that. Let's see. The system indicate that it is an effective solution to reduce the indoor concentration of ultrafine particles and black carbon. And these are strong indicators of traffic pollution, and in the scientific literature, that is classically what is presented as an indicator. They're easier to measure than something else because you can measure them with a direct reading instrument, which is very helpful. And one step back, sorry. And I just want to say that one would expect similar or even higher removal efficiencies for particles that are a bit larger, like 2.5 and 10, that we do have regulations for. All right, next. Thank you, Tracy. So here is about efficiency, and I'm going to try to simplify this by telling you that there is increased outdoor ultrafine particle and black carbon levels from traffic emissions. The graph on the top is about ultrafine particles. The graph on the bottom is about black carbon. The red curves is what's going on outside the classroom. The blue curves is what is going on inside the classrooms with these filters in place. Some quick observations is that the curve on the red curves are fluctuating all over the place, going up to, depending on which days we were reading what, we saw 80,000 particles per cubic centimeter. 90,000, 60,000, 5,000, 20,000, 35,000. And these are big numbers. These ultrafine particles on the inside with that filtration system are really, really low. 500, 1,000, 200, 2,000. So the bottom line is, whichever way you look at it, those blue curves are dramatically different than the red curves. And therefore, this system substantially reduces ultrafine particles and black carbon levels indoors, which then reduces children's exposure to those indicators of traffic pollutants, and ultrafine particles are believed to be the biggest culprits causing all the negative health effects. So another point to make here, which is that highest indoor peaks, and these are the blue peaks that you see a few of those, they are a very direct indicator of a door opening and being propped open. It occurred at about 8:45 in the morning when the door was propped open for all the kids to come in, and it stayed open till about 9:05. And so the efficiency of that system went down to about 47% at that time, and it took it about 15 minutes to recover and for the cleanliness of the air to go back inside to 80%, 85% removal efficiency. There is a little bit of ups and downs throughout the day because kids go in and out of the classroom. But what was actually very amazing, except for that morning scenario where the door was open for 20 minutes, all the other scenarios where the doors were open and shut, for kids to go in and out, or even doors opening for about 1 minute, it took 2 minutes for the filtration efficiency to go back up, it would drop to 70%, maybe drop to 80%, then again go up very quickly, which is why you saw that the average was 94%. So the recovery was very quick if the door was opened and closed quickly rather than just propped open. At the end of the day, there was an earthquake drill, and it happened at about 3. And of course, the door was propped open for a long time. So that also shows that it really does affect the air quality. Now, I have a last note there about the air exchange rate. And this is an indication of how quickly is this system moving air through the room. In classic terms, this is how it's presented. What makes sense to me to say to you is that it takes 9 minutes for all the air in that room to go through that filter, should it all be polluted because the door was propped open forever. And so 10 minutes is quick, okay? But again, that only becomes an issue if the door is propped open for a long time, for literally all the air to go out and then be replaced with dirty air. I looked at minute-by-minute results for those 52 hours, and I can tell you a lot more about all of that. But the system creates positive pressure inside the classroom, and that's probably why when we open the door, open and close doors quickly, it really recovers very fast. And every time I say recovery, I mean air gets clean, is what I'm trying to say, which then means children are less exposed. Because we're trying to bring down the dose of all that exposure is the goal here. And so that it's relatively clean inside or very clean means they're exposed to less of those pollutants that have been shown to be harmful. So with that, let's see, what else did I want to say? I guess the fluctuation, a lot of ups and downs. Inside it's nice and flat. That's really all I had to say about it. I'd be happy to entertain questions. I can say a lot more about this data. But We can do that now, or we can actually give our next speaker a chance to present her presentation.
Why don't we do that? Let's complete the presentation and then we'll ask
Okay,
questions.
all right. So our next presenter is Andrea Rico, and she comes to us from USC Community Outreach Center, and she's also a professor at USC of Preventive Medicine, if I said that right.
You did.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. If you could go back to the previous slide. My name is Andrea Rico, and I work at USC in the Preventive Medicine Department at Keck School of Medicine. And I enjoy the opportunity to present to you. Next. So at USC, we have a Southern California Environmental Health Sciences Center. It's based at USC, but we also have scientists from UCLA and Caltech who do research on the health effects of air pollution. And some of you may have heard about the USC Children's Health Study. It's been going on for more than 20 years now, following children over time to see what happens to their lungs in different kinds of environments in the Southern California area when they're growing up. My job is to work with these teams of scientists and to reach out to the community and bring the science from those research projects so that people in the community, whether they're policymakers or parents, understand what the science means. Next. So why we're here today is mostly to protect our children and the young students who are entrusted to our care from the adverse effects of near roadway air pollution. But I should say that we're also concerned, most of my material will deal with the effects on children, but we're also concerned about all the teachers and the staff who are here in the school. And even though I won't be presenting to you some of the information about near roadway pollution's effects on, say, pregnant women, though there is information like that I could provide you if you were interested. Next. So I should add that Southern California has many impacted schools. El Marino is just one of these, although I would say that your school is probably with the groups of schools that are really close to a freeway. Some schools are impacted, but they might be, like more like 1,000 feet away from the freeway. So here we have Hudson K-8 school in West Long Beach, which is next to something called the Terminal Island Freeway with 500 trucks an hour coming from the ports of LA to a rail yard. That school recently has had filters installed in it through a settlement with the Port of Los Angeles on a problem that they had with a new terminal. On the right, we have Soto Street Elementary School in Boyle Heights. And that was frankly more of a struggle with the parents trying to get filters into the schools 10, 15 years ago. And at that time, the science was new and the principal didn't really know much about it and was quite resistant. But more recently, they've been able to get filters into that school. And you can see there are actually 3 or 4 freeways that crisscross above and next to that school. So they got a sound wall put in place, which wasn't there, and filters in their schools recently. So I would say that those parents worked really hard at those schools to implement changes, and it's clear that a lot of congratulations are due to the parents and teachers and staff and school board here for your own hard work and initiative and really paying attention to this issue. Next. This slide, if you could all turn around and look at it, because the color matters. It's a slide showing information from a study done by Jim Gotterman and published in the New England Journal of Medicine, which is one of the premier medical journals in the country. And what it's looking at is how do kids' lungs grow in different kinds of communities in Southern California. So if you look at the purple bar, you can see that 100% of the children have what is the expected lung growth. If you live far from a freeway and have low PM 2.5, which is the particulate matter in the air. On the far right, it's the children who live with high particulate matter and near a freeway are really losing a lot of their lung function as they grow up. So the next slide, please. Yes, so what I'd like you to look at, and I usually am pointing to the far right, but here in Culver City, the air is pretty good. The regional air is actually pretty good here because of your proximity to the ocean. But the fact you can see the decrements that we're having in lung function growth because of being near a freeway. So the combination, you have to really look at all these different combinations of what the air pollution is like and how close you are to a given freeway to be able to understand what the effects are. And if I may just read the sentence above, the conclusion: local exposure to traffic on a freeway has adverse effects on children's lung development, which are independent of regional air quality and which can result in important deficits in attained lung function in later life. So what the scientists are finding is that if you grow up in an environment or go to school in an environment, and it's worse if you do if both happen to be true, but if you grow up in that environment, by the time you reach age 18, you're much likely to have a lower lung function growth, and your lungs pretty much are fully grown by the time you're 18. So if someone reaches age 18 and they have a deficit in their lung function, they're not likely to make that up again over the future unless they moved, you know, to a completely different part of the state or of the country where there was very little air pollution. Next. So these are a few of the findings on the effects of children's exposure to traffic-related air pollution. Children living near traffic have increased risks of respiratory problems such as new onset asthma, exacerbation of asthma, increased school absences, and increased asthma-related hospitalizations. There's a lot of information on respiratory effects, and now there are these emerging studies. So the next two are, you know, really just beginning. USC has a number of papers on this, and others do, but we still don't quite know what to make of this information. That children living near high traffic density are more likely to have high BMI. So increased exposure to traffic density could be related to obesity or possibly metabolic problems with diabetes. So that's a new finding, and we have a brand new, very large center at USC looking at that issue, including doing animal studies. And also that several studies now that children born to mothers who live near freeways when they're pregnant, so this might be thinking about teachers, are more likely, their children are more likely to have autism. Again, that's an emerging study, but several people now are starting to look at that as a possible problem. Next. And just the final picture just to say that this is one of the problems that we're trying to prevent by the work that all of you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Together, and then we can just ask both of you a question at the same time. No, I do not want to go through 25 cards next. Dr. Levin, did you want to go ahead and ask some questions? Okay. Well, do you want to get started, and then maybe we'll give you a break and interrupt you?
What I'm hoping to do is walk through the logical structure from beginning to end. So first step is being next to a freeway has health impacts. We just saw that. You quoted one particle size, you measured a different particle size. So the next question is, the particle size you quoted for health impacts was really as a marker for being near the freeway, right? Right. So do you have data on which particle sizes matter the most for health impacts?
We can both speak to that. I'm going to let her go, but I mean the evidence is so all over the place. It's not even arguable, but go ahead.
Right. Actually the lead author was from UCLA. UCLA and USC scientists together did a study of the 405 that's very much like the study that Rania did. And it showed very similar results. And they focused on ultrafine particles because we now know that it's the tiniest particles that are probably the most toxic. Those particles are, you know, high and then drop off further away, so that we're concerned about that distance that what some people call a buffer zone, or what you might have a buffer zone if you were building a new school, that in that buffer zone of, say, 500 feet away from the freeway, you're more likely to have exposure to these ultrafine particles. Ultrafines are not regulated right now, so a lot of the studies that we did starting 20 years ago when people didn't really know about ultrafines, we were measuring PM 2.5 and often nitrogen dioxide as, again, a marker for traffic pollution.
And if you looked at the literature, they go together. Now,
Right.
ultrafine particles are the very dangerous ones because they're so small, they have a very large surface area. They not only go deep into the lungs, they cross cellular membranes, get into the bloodstream, and distribute to other organs, including placenta barrier, getting through that in the brain and causing inflammation there, and a lot of some of the health effects that we're seeing more and more of.
Okay, so that's the next step in the chain I wanted to follow, which is that we're measuring ultrafine particles because we think they're the most dangerous,
Well,
even though
they're an indicator of traffic pollution. That
Right.
and it comes only from a combustion exhaust.
Right, that I understood.
Yeah.
And there's evidence for health effects of traffic exhaust. There's evidence for connecting either the 2.5 or the ultrafine to the exhaust. And there's somewhat more tenuous evidence that the most dangerous ones could be the ultrafine, right? Even though there's not a standard for that yet from the EPA.
Correct.
Right? Okay, good. So I'm ready for the next step, which is you showed data that shows that proximity to the freeway is a factor, but that it drops off relatively slowly. So over a distance scale that encompasses the school, essentially the whole school is involved, right?
Correct. And that's exactly what the literature would have predicted too. It's
Right.
within that 500 feet.
Okay, so then the next step, when you showed the library and the computer lab, there was about a factor of 2 improvement in the computer lab, which I assume does not have a filter system, it just has standard air conditioning, right?
Correct.
Okay, so then the next...
Well, actually, I'm not sure. It has some sort of a filter probably because air conditionings do, but it's not a high efficiency filtration system.
As a point of order, I just want to say we don't want to have a symposium here.
I'm trying to walk through the chain that says that the system that they're talking about is or is not appropriate for the situation. So the next step then would be whether the half level that's in, say, the computer lab is still a danger, right? How it compares with being, 2,000 feet from the freeway. Right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And you know what? We can get into figuring out which mitigation is going to work better, and I think that maybe is a subject for another discussion, or work with our district staff and get some contractors and scientists. It won't help reduce it much, but it will bring it down. And knowing that we're dealing with carcinogens, little lungs and all that, actually filters don't add much to the system. It's really the fact that we need to bring in fresh air into the rooms in order to shut the doors. That's going to really be the big deal. Filters are actually a little icing on the cake. So I wouldn't, I think that should not, we will look at it and see which filters work and why this or why the other. But it's the ability to shut the doors that makes the difference. But we can't shut the doors and suffocate everybody, right? So we got to ventilate, and we got to move the room air quickly enough that when we open and close the doors, because they do go to the bathroom and go to recess and all that, we actually has a reasonable ability to clean up that air soon, as opposed to 3 hours from now, because otherwise, why are we doing this? So it's about moving room air through the room. And cleaner would be better, of course, right?
Right, so and maybe this isn't the place to do it, although there needs to be some place, is to walk through the chain that shows that the existing situation with the computer lab as the example, is not sufficient, and that the filter, which I think the evidence is very clear that the filter system works, right? The pieces of the chain that you didn't lay out, maybe because you felt they were obvious, were that we need something that works at a level in the 90% range, not the 50% range.
Okay. And I think that
I would just suggest that someone check out exactly what kind of HVAC or air conditioning and filtering you have in that computer room, because maybe, you're going to learn something from that we don't know.
And also, it's a little bit of apples and oranges, because what the P-track measured is a little bit slightly different than the particle range that the other instruments measured in the other room. So we'd have to kind of do both equally the same to be able to answer your question more directly. The data we have doesn't exactly do that for us.
Ms. Paspalis, did you want to say something?
Yeah, the indoor air monitoring sheet just showed me the difference between doors open and doors closed.
Right,
I mean,
and that was the
just
beginning.
Very basic, and you could see that
Right.
there was a big jump down, and that to me was all you were doing with that initial exercise.
Exactly.
And I thought, well, that's a great start, you know.
And that's
then-
exactly where it was
Right,
at.
exactly.
Right. It was an indicator of, oh, shutting the doors actually might make a difference.
Right, in a classroom that actually has AC in it.
Right.
Got it.
Uh,
That was clear to me.
Any other board
Okay.
members have any questions? I just wanted to ask one question. I'm not even sure how to phrase the question. If a student is able to be in a more clean air environment, are you saying that their lung capacity can reverse? Like it gets better? Or, I'm not, can you speak to that more clearly?
Well, I don't think anyone's, and no one's done a study on that,
Okay.
and we need to. But we have done studies with children who have moved out of Southern California. So they grew up in Long Beach and they moved to another state, and we followed them. One time we followed like 100 kids to see what happened to them. When they were young and they moved to a different environment, their lungs got better. So that would imply, but I don't have the evidence for that, that if you were, let's say, breathing the air from kindergarten to 4th grade, and then all of a sudden we filtered all the classrooms, that the children's lung function could improve. But there are not studies yet that show that.
Okay.
And I think to assume that it recovers 100% is
Right.
a gigantic
No,
assumption.
right, no.
Because lung growth, you know, you may have missed out on that growth period, is my understanding, but looks like, you know, more studies need to be done about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We have about 25 cards on this subject.
Are you sure we have 25 people in the room?
So if, I'm going to call some names. I think people have written some things down they'd like to have written on the record. So if somebody has already said what you wanted to say, feel free to just say ditto. So Gina Marie Walker, she said thank you to our district for listening to efforts and resources to find a solution and test its effectiveness. I look forward to a continued partnership between the district and El Marino, bringing clean air to all students in every classroom. Thank you. P.S. Come to our silent auction. Janine Wisnowski-Stalin. Janine, is she still here? She's up here behind the podium. Hi, Janine Wisnowski-Stalin. And I wanted to say, as the mother of 2 El Marino graduates, as well as a current El Marino student, I am continually impressed with the Clean Air El Marino team. El Marino provides excellent educational, emotional, musical, and social education for our collective children. And this is my 9th year as an El Marino parent. And as an advocate for this school, I've been continually asked if I'm worried about the quality of air, because this wonderful school is so close to the 405 freeway. And so up until recently, all I could say is, yeah, I'm worried, but so far so good. So it's all been guesswork. And I want you to know, parents have these conversations not only here in the playground at El Marino, but they also have them at the preschools when people are considering where they're going to send the kids. But now that Dr. Daly and her team have done this work and have evidence of exactly what our small kids are breathing, and that something could be done about it, I am very grateful. And I'm looking forward to the next steps in what we can take to clean the air that hundreds of small children and their teachers and the staff breathe each day. Thank you. Thank you. Shauna Zelig. I'm a concerned parent who is concerned about the air quality at El Marino. Jamie Wallace, in light of the empirical data about particulates on the school campus, I strongly urge the board and the district to find a solution to this issue ASAP. Will Cable. I have health concerns due to the freeway and large city. Rosabelle Ortiz. I would like to thank the team that is putting this research together, being that my child has asthma. Air quality has been a big concern. I hope that the current results will help in cleaning the air in the rest of the school's classrooms. Stephen Lara Embry.
I have a note. Can I read it? I am an El Marino parent. When I considered El Marino for my child, I was and still am concerned about the particulate matter our children breathe and take into their developing lungs. As a room parent of room 19, Nagamo Sensei's class, which is right next to where the pilot system is. Oops, I lost it. Okay. I have seen firsthand the black dust every day, all over the tables and inside the room. I have 4 volunteer parents in the class wiping down inside tables, chairs, and surfaces nearly every day. This matter is real and serious. Our children need and deserve clean air for their growing bodies. Please make it a priority for our school. El Marino to have filters in all of our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Drorin? Sorry?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, I've been doing lots of research and looked up some of the studies and stuff. One of the things that I found that I thought was really interesting is that actually even just increasing the air circulation because of the CO2 levels building up, so increasing ventilation rates from 5 cubic feet per minute to over 10 cubic feet per minute in one study, math scores increased by 14.7% and reading scores increased by 13.7%. And then research also found that even a 10% decrease in particle pollution or NO2 would increase math and reading scores even more. So it's not just their health, but also their academics, getting better quality air. Your body is more apt to grab onto carbon monoxide than oxygen, which is part of why it can really impact. And I'm very concerned about my daughter. I almost didn't come here just because of the air quality. So,
thank you. And your daughter, is she here? Did she?
Yeah. So she. Yeah. We recorded them. They were here earlier. Those were the 2 El Marino students. They wanted to say something about clean air.
So this is Ashley Jornan.
Yeah, my batteries. Please, Mark.
Do you?
I don't know. Should I put it up to the?
Yeah, go ahead.
You can hear it. Okay. Ashley.
Census class, and I think we should, to make the smell go nice and pretty, to put signs everywhere, and grown-ups come to pick up their child. They look at the sign and read it, and they write stuff. And so when you're and you might want to put a microfiber in there and wash your boards and tables at the end of the day, so you can have a nice classroom.
The first thing she was talking about was the no idling program, which program that we started.
Yeah, I believe this is a first. Is this a first for public comment?
There's another child too.
This is Leona Jones.
Okay, yeah.
Leona Jones. Okay.
Yeah, she's a kindergartner in Nagamo Sensei's class.
Okay.
19.
My name is Leona, and I'm in Nagamo Sensei's class, group 19, and I wanted everybody to share their money so they can get air filters for every class.
Because they're not scripted.
That's good. We will think about sharing our money. Shelley Blaisdell? Is she sharing?
Hello. Two things. First off, I want to give an anecdote, a very unscientific corroboration of just what's already been said. My house is a block and a half east of the 405. I'm exactly in the same position that the playground is. And I have the black schmutz. Oh my God, it's everywhere. It's disgusting. And in my household, we have 2 adults, one who stays primarily inside and one who's primarily outside, me. And I've got adult onset asthma. I've had for the last 6 years an increasing respiratory situation, which last year ended up with the trip to urgent care. I'm actually in one of these episodes right now, so if I seem out of breath, that's why. So that does not require me to do a ton of scientific research to know that I need something happening in my home to keep the schmutz and the ick from coming in my house, and to make it so that I can be outside. I don't know exactly what that fix is going to be yet, but I only bring up my personal story to say that there might come a moment when, as much as the scientific research is incredibly important, some filters, just bring them on. I know that we have an awful lot of situations in this district that need attention and need action and need funds, and deciding how to share the money, as the student said, is difficult, but I would like to see this issue bumped up a little bit on the priority list, and I know it won't be easy, but it is an issue that I personally would like to see given some urgency.
Thank you very much. Olivia Van de Wettering. Yes, sorry, I put your name.
Hi, welcome. Thank you. I am Olivia Van de Wettering Bies, and I'm a parent here in El Marino. I have a 4th grade daughter, and I'm a pretty active parent here. I'm executive PTA board member, room parent, growing great docent, love the garden. And so I kind of, as that, have had the privilege of being able to give the kindergarten, the prospective kindergarten parent tours for the last 4 years. Every year this issue comes up with these prospective parents, but none as much as this year. The last 5 tours that we gave, every single tour, this question came up from 2 or 3 sets of parents, and none more prevalent than this last Friday when we had our last tour that I gave. And they just wanted to continue talking about it, and we actually had stepped out and we were outside of the Kick bungalow, which is right against the freeway there, and they just kept bombarding with questions, and I kept thinking, I've got all these other wonderful things I can share, but they wanted to really discuss it. And one of the fathers had asked if I knew any students that had respiratory issues, and I said yes. As a matter of fact, my daughter was one. And the odd thing was that when we moved here, we're not from here originally, and so I was oblivious. I had no clue. I was very naive and ignorant to this freeway issue. And I was very concerned because my daughter started kindergarten and she started exhibiting this. I know we're only 2 minutes, so we ended up having to purchase an nebulizer, not purchase. We had to rent in kindergarten. She was having a lot of issues with her breathing, and we didn't know what was going on. So trips after trip to the doctor's office, renting the nebulizers. We moved into 1st grade, and at that point, within a couple of months, we had to actually purchase a nebulizer, just like the one you saw on that child, because of all the issues. Sorry, I was going to try and keep it together. We were off spring break, that year. It was a Christmas holiday, and we found as a family, as parents of hers, that when we were away from the school, her symptoms were less. And so we were on break for winter, and I happened upon, on the Knockwood group here, and sometimes a little information can be too much information, but it was a conversation about whether or not to send children here to El Marino, and it was this long strand. And so we returned to school. Within 2 weeks, we were back at the doctor's office already in January, so I brought it up to her, and she said, well, have you noticed any black soot type material? And I lost it in the office because as a parent already beginning helping out in the kindergarten room, that was the black. Every day we were wiping down, and I just kept thinking, what is this stuff? Again, my ignorance. And so I had a mini breakdown. I finally took a breath, calmed down, and said, we need to figure out a solution. What can we do? And I'm just here to kind of thank you because as I told the parents on Friday, it may not come to fruition for my daughter's lifetime. She's a 4th grader here, but they will have a chance, their children. And we pointed to the HVAC, and I explained what was going on with a big smile on my face, and I just said it makes a huge difference. Already the studies are showing, and we're doing the best we can. We've had this team for the last 2.5 years working on it, and it's going to work for you. And I'm sorry, I had this one last thing. I explained to them too that hopefully in the future that will not be a question that comes up on the tour, that mainly it would be will my children have homework as a kindergartner and where will they have their lunch. So that's the day we're hoping for. So I thank you very much. Please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell you how much I appreciate your effort. El Marino is a perfect school in every way, except for the fact that it is located right under the freeway. Our family had concern about that when we were deciding on what school our daughter would enroll in. The pollution was the only drawback. Anyway, we went ahead and chose El Marino. The concern about pollution did not go away, but everything else about the school won over. Now that we see a parent group being very active in improving the quality of air at the school, our minds have peace. Thank you very much for what you are doing. Tora Flint.
Thank you.
Should we turn in those to you? Is that okay?
That would be great. You're going to give them to Rebecca Williams. Okay. Michael and June.
I have a note from them as well. We are the parents of a kindergarten student at El Marino whose class is in room 20. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to you all for your hard work that made room 20's air filtration system possible. 2 years after touring many elementary schools, we were certain that we wanted to send our daughter to El Marino. However, the school's air quality, given the school's proximity to the 405, was of great concern. We feel extremely fortunate that our daughter's classroom was the one chosen for the air filtration system test case. Over the course of this school year, we feel that we've seen many of the benefits of air filtration. Most importantly, our daughter has been very healthy this year, having only missed 1 day of school. The dust accumulation in the classroom appears to be very low. It is also a huge benefit to have the room air conditioned on hot days when opening the windows would mean a high exposure to polluted air. We thank you so very much for helping to make this year a healthy one for our daughter and her classmates.
Thank you. Morgan Wen.
Hi, good evening. My name is Morgan Wyan. I'm an attorney with the Natural Resources Defense Council, the NRDC, and I'm part of our Southern California Air Quality Project. So my whole job is to work on cleaning up air pollution throughout Southern California. And actually I work with Professor Rico quite a bit around pollution from the ports of LA and Long Beach, where there's a lot of schools that have these kind of problems, but they're from the trucks from the ports. I first want to start out by applauding Rania and the other parents of the school and the teachers and the administrators who have been such inspiring leaders, who have worked really hard to understand the impacts of air pollution on their families and to figure out ways to protect their kids and the entire school. It's quite astounding. Unfortunately, as we've heard tonight, the problems they found are extremely serious. And Professor Rico went over the health impacts from this air pollution. Unfortunately, it's not just an issue for this school or some of the other schools in LA. It's a nationwide problem. EPA estimates that 35 million Americans live within 100 meters of major highways. And so while federal lawmakers, local regulators, community organizations, activists across the country are working on this, as we all know, the wheels of change can turn really, really slow. It takes a really long time for the whole fleet of cars out there on the roads to turn over to cleaner models. It takes a really long time for regulations to be adopted and phased in. But the one thing that doesn't take that long is more local action. And so for a school to stand up and do something they can do immediately is the only real hope that kids today have to see the benefits of the technologies that we have that are so available. So I think it's been made pretty clear tonight, but it seems that the school and the school district has a huge responsibility to do everything it can to protect its students from these threats while they're at school and in the classroom. So they have a safe place to learn and to grow. And so I applaud this collaboration between the AQMD and USC and the parents and the school district to identify funding to get air filters in the classroom right away. I applaud your work and I look forward to touting this as a model for other schools in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann Burke. Is Ann here?
Sort of.
Many faces.
Thank you all. This has been a very long meeting, and I appreciate all she didn't hear too. So she can say that. Okay. The mission of the PTA is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. Here at El Marino, we feel strongly that part of that advocacy includes participation in clean air initiatives. A group of dedicated parents formed the group Clean Air El Marino, and they are now a committee under the El Marino PTA. I feel this perfectly aligns with the core values and missions of the PTA, and we are pleased to have such a passionate and dedicated group of parents willing to take on these efforts on behalf of our entire student body. These efforts do not impact 1 or 2 children. The work this group has done and continues to do impacts over 800 children and 35 plus El Marino staff and faculty. It is my hope that the school district and our local community will also see their good works and support the Clean Air El Marino goals. Thank you. Ann Burke, President, El Marino Language School, PTA.
Thank you. Hitomi Nomura.
All right, this is the teacher in room 20, actually. During the course of the last few months, since the air filtration system has been installed, I feel that I have seen a reduction in the amount of dust that accumulates inside the classroom. While I have not felt many health effects directly myself, I know that many parents have been grateful that their children who have respiratory issues are in a classroom that has an air filtration system. As for the heating and cooling system, I know that the noise level coming from the system is much less than that one of the other teachers have. In the afternoons, this classroom tends to get very hot and stuffy, which made it difficult for students and teachers to concentrate on any newly taught material. With the new system, the cooling is quick and allows our classroom to be at a comfortable temperature all day long. It makes it easier for the students to concentrate on their work when the classroom is not too hot or too cold. And in the heat, it makes it much easier to do work when we do not have multiple fans blowing their papers all around the classroom. In the past, we've had to keep both doors open to cool down the classroom, but the noise from the freeway, surrounding streets and playground distracting students as they worked. Now we can close the door to shut out any of those noises whenever we want to. I believe that the air filtration system has made learning and teaching in this classroom much easier, and hope that all classrooms at El Marino will be able to get this system installed. Thank you.
Thank you. Jess Daly.
It's the real Jess Daly.
My ID is sitting right there. No, that's okay. I love Culver City. I've been a resident here for 36 years, and I love the school system in Culver City. And in addition to being Ranya's husband, I'm also a parent of El Marino, and been a parent of El Marino for 10 years. Got 1 more year to go. Sorry, Tracy. I have 3 kids. All of them, one is currently an El Marino student. The other 2 have gone on to middle school and high school. My oldest son, our oldest son, is in the 10th grade. He plays baseball at the high school. He's had lung issues with exercise. Our youngest son, who's at El Marino, went to the emergency room the other morning with serious asthma attack. I know there's no way to prove there's a connection between those 2 incidents and the air at El Marino, but there probably is a connection. So I want to urge this board to not get bogged down in the science of this issue, but just clean the air up for our kids.
Thank you. Howard Benton. Elaine, is he coming back? I'll call somebody else. Oh, you're going to read for him?
Are you going to call Nisha Horton?
Yes.
Okay,
sorry.
And I'm going to summarize. Hi there. I'm Howard Benton. Really, Howard and I are neighbors and live in the community, and just want to echo what Shelley Blaisdell said, that living so close to the freeway, Howard's home quite a bit more than I am, and he definitely has more lung issues than I do. So we just want to echo that. So there's a ditto for Howard. And then a quick for Nisha Horton, I want to honor her. She did write a nice letter. She is a PTA executive board member, And basically, she just imparts everything that Olivia said and other people said, but I do want to honor her with just her conclusion, which is the data does not lie. Let me put on my glasses. Sorry about that. Okay, the data does not lie, and this is an issue that will never go away. It will only get worse. Every parent at the school has chosen to compromise the respiratory health of their children in order for them to receive an immersion education. But it doesn't have to be this way. We have the opportunity right now to change the course of our children's health. Clean air through filtration in the classroom is the way to do it. Thank you so much for your time.
Right. Thank you. Christine?
So it's part of the record line, the whole statement?
Whole statement turned in. Christina Paul? And then after that would be Kathy Stewart and Satomi Izika?
Exactly.
Oh, exactly.
Good evening. I'm proud to be part of the El Marino community. I teach second grade in the Spanish immersion program, and my room is in the row of buildings that's the second closest to the 405 freeway. But regardless of where teachers are located on campus, there's a lot of genuine excitement and concern about filtration. Will we all get it? When will we all get it? Teachers will be so very relieved when we don't have to wonder if our health issues or those of our children now or in the future are related to the air pollution in our classrooms. Right now, teachers can only do so much. As has been said, we can close the doors even on days where it's 90 degrees, which is quite unpleasant, and especially for children who have really small bodies and lots of surface area and who are getting dehydrated. We can do consistent and constant wipe downs every day with microfiber cloths, but those strategies and tools aren't really enough to do the job. What we need is a real solution, and what we need is HVACs in every single classroom as soon as possible. We feel we deserve it, and we hope that we can make clean air a reality in every single classroom soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So, I don't even know if the rest of these people are here, so should I just read
Well,
them?
Izaki Sensei, she's going to read that.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to read.
So just so you know, we've gone over 20 minutes for comments on this one item in the agenda. So maybe what we can do is just, if anybody else is here to speak,
I have a question on the report.
Okay, well, can I?
Any of the written statements, just turn them in.
Yeah, if you have written statements, go ahead and turn them in. And go ahead and give them to Rebecca Williams. And so the names that I had left were Kathy Stewart.
Yeah, Kathy Stewart is from US EPA Region 9, and she wrote the statement that I will deliver to you.
Okay, go ahead and turn it into Rebecca Williams. And then Satomi Izika. I'm sorry. You gave the, okay, Raisa and Adam.
I just turned it in.
You turned it in, and then, I know, I'm trying to read the name, Ms. Martinez, Adriana Martinez?
Oh, she turned it in. Yeah, that's.
Okay,
I
go
think
ahead. Okay, and then Mr. Lassi, you said you had a question regarding the report?
I don't doubt any of the figures given in the report, but I was wondering which door was probably opened and closed. Was it the east door or the west door? And what level was the air filtration system running? Medium, high, low? And did you monitor the decibel level?
First question, door. The door that was opening and closing was not the one that heads to the freeway. That one does not get touched, hopefully ever. So we're talking about the east door that opens to the playground, which has to be opened frequently, you know. The other one did not get opened, and it would be very interesting to see what that effect might have been, probably more dramatic than this. That's for first. The second was...
The level that the air filtration system was running?
Oh, the level. The system runs constant. The fan needs to be on to constantly be turning around the air at the same CFM capacity at all times. Now, the thermostat will turn on air conditioning or heating, but that's optional. It may even be turned off, but it's the fan that constantly runs at the same CFM capacity. There's no high, low, and medium. It's just one setting.
And the decibel level?
Decibel level was inside, it cannot be heard. Outside, it is so quiet, you can whisper around it. And that was a requirement that was really mentioned by the teachers, because right now the heating systems that they have are ones that they cannot turn on, even if it's cold inside the classroom. So that was a consideration that came up very early on in our research, and that our district staff felt very strongly about. So they wanted to look for a solution that was actually going to be quiet, outside and inside. Well, inside, but it turned out it was really quiet outside too. So it's somewhere below 40, something around 40 decibels. You can actually whisper around it, and we can all be testimonies to that, because we've tried that. And that's on the outside. The inside is completely quiet. Did I cover all the questions?
Thank you very much.
All right. I think we've moved on to 14.1A.